Hello friends and Merry Christmas. I'm coming to you from my living room where I have my tree and my mantle, and I thought this would be a fun place to do this Advent Live. My name is Sheila DelCharco and I am one of the mentors here on the app, and I'm also the author of the Advent Unit Studies. So I thought I would share a little bit about why we wrote them, what's in them, and answer some of your questions. So, there are 4 books in the Jotham Journey series. We have written 3 of them. We have written 3 unit studies based on the books. So the 4th book does not have a unit study yet. We have 3 of them. So, if you are not familiar with these books, they are specifically written for Advent. So there is a daily reading throughout the entire time of Advent. Advent, if you don't know, is a season in the church calendar. So if you're not from a liturgical background, you may not be familiar with this. So just as we have seasons in our world, some more than others. I live in Florida, so our seasons are not as pronounced as those of you who live elsewhere, like in New England or just up north, or even way down south. So our seasons are not quite as pronounced as some of what other people experience. But just as there are seasons in our world, the liturgical church has seasons, and Advent is basically New Year. It's the beginning of the liturgical year. So 4 weeks before Christmas, 4 Sundays before Christmas is when Advent begins. So this year, Advent is actually really late. Some years it's in November. It starts in November. This year it's December 3rd. Is that Sunday? I think so. So it's starting kind of late this year. So we really only have about 3 weeks of actual Advent weeks before Christmas. So, you know, it varies from year to year. So, why study something like this during Advent? We thought it would be a great idea to come up with these unit studies to focus on the reason for this season, to try and calm some of the crazy that can happen at this time of year and really focus on Jesus, which is really why we have Christmas. So again, back to these books. So these books are based on the story of characters in the story. So in this book, it's about Jotham, and Jotham encounters people in the stories, which then have their own book. So Tabitha's travels. He will meet Tabitha in his book, and then there's a book about her and like her viewpoint. It all ties back together really nicely. And then Bartholomew. So Arnold wrote them in this order here. He wrote Jotham first, and then Bartholomew, and then Tabitha. But we actually released our unit studies in a little bit of a different order. We did Jotham first, and then Tabitha, and then Bartholomew, because we wanted to give a girl story pretty early on. So these books I found to be fascinating. We discovered Jotham in 2001, and the reason I know is that we wrote it down in our book. What year we read. So we read Jotham 3 times. Every so many years we would break it back out because we would read through the whole series, and then we would reread it, and the kids were a little bit older. They understood things a little bit differently. We remembered the story, but not all the details, so it was fun to do a reread. And so I've read this book multiple times. And so when I came up with the idea, I was like, you know, I want to present this book to our Sonlight family, but of course we're not going to just give you a book. We're going to do a little bit more. So what we did was we created an instructor's guide, just like you're used to with our homeschool curriculum. And so you will have a schedule that will tell you what the reading assignments are, and then you will also have notes So this is what the schedule looks like. Okay, and it's divided into reading and into activity, just like we have in our HBL. Sometimes, it'll be like Bible, history, read alouds, readers, like it'll be broken down in that way. So for this particular book, the Jotham book, there is the Jotham storyline that you will read, and it'll tell you what the reading assignment is each day. There is a scripture reading that you will do each day as well. And then for this particular level, we also have library books, so picture books that you can get from your library. Now, not every library is going to have every single book. I would not stress about that. Just check out the books that you do have available. You may not get all of them all at once because maybe some other people have checked them out. Just place a hold on them. Ask your librarian how to do that, and you can read them when they come in. We do have them scheduled for you, but it's not the end of the world if you don't read them in the order that they are scheduled. Then there is a craft. And the craft can be like an actual craft, but it might also just be some things that you do. Then it'll say other activity, and other activities might include making a garland for your Christmas tree, making hot chocolate, watching a video, things like that. And there are also baking recipes suggested for you. All the recipes are going to be included in your notes. And you will also get recipe cards that will come in your box. So this box will have all of the craft materials that you need to perform the crafts. Obviously not the most basic things like scissors and things like that, but it'll have things like glue and string and wire, glitter. Gosh, this is hard doing it backwards. And then these are your recipe cards. There's just all kinds of stuff in here. So that way you have everything that you need to do the activities. Now, I did have some questions on the app, and so I'm going to go ahead and answer those now. Crystal asked about if it's too scary. And then Emily, who has an almost nine-year-old, Crystal has a 5 and 9, and they are both finding that the stories are a little bit scary. Now, every family is different, and what different some kids can be more sensitive than others, and so parents, you need to judge whether this is age appropriate. I will say, because my notes tell me that we read this in 2001, that means I had a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 1-year-old. And I do remember that it was a little bit intense, especially for, the 1-year-old wasn't really following along, but the 4 and the 6-year-old did. However, the way I got around it was every day, every chapter, every day, it ends on a cliffhanger. And I mean cliffhanger. You're like, oh, what's going to happen? So I think part of the scary is that it leaves you with your heart racing. And I was a mean mom. I just let them be in suspense. But I have kids who can handle like harder things like that. I had boys, and they were not super sensitive. But if I did, I would try, because I myself did this. I would be like, okay, kids, night-night. And then I would go and read the beginning of the next day. Like, what happens? I remember this. And so if you have children who are going to have nightmares because it leaves them in too much of a suspense, I wonder if it would help you to just read the first page of the next day to kind of relieve the pressure. And it's like, oh, they're going to be okay. It's fine. I wonder if that would be helpful. But literally every day, it leaves you on a cliffhanger. So for you that have kids that maybe that's too much, try that. If that doesn't work, that's okay. It just means you have very tender-hearted kids, and there's nothing wrong with that. I would say put that book aside and don't read it this year. It's going to be there. I still have mine from 2001, so they will keep, and you can pull it out next year or the following year or whenever you think it's appropriate. And then just do the other things. You can read the library books that you got from the library. You can do the scripture. You can do the activities. You can talk about the scripture. So I would not push it if your kids are going to be freaked out about it. But I'm wondering that if you just read that first page to let them know that everything is going to be okay. Spoiler alert, it all ends well. Like, in the end, it all ends well. There is a bad guy, Decha of Megiddo. Okay, so that is a good idea. Our 7-year-old is okay, but the older one is more intense. Yeah, so, every kid is different. So if you can just kind of figure out what works for your kids and go with that, absolutely. And then Emily asked, how do you do it? Do you pause the read aloud? Do you pause other things? Like, how do you work this into your schedule? So the reading of the Jotham book takes probably about 15 minutes. So we light our candles and do our reading after dinner time. My 9 and 13-year-old think it's too sad. I might read ahead. I mean, hard things happen to these kids, but I promise you it ends well. There are happy endings at the end, which is what makes it such a great story. Okay. So how to incorporate this. So the reading of the book takes about 15 minutes. So it's up to you if you wanted to do it during your school day. We always did it at night after school was done. I know of families who budget their time so that they can take December off and do Christmas school. So they will suspend all of their HBL, science, all that kind of stuff. They might keep math going because math is that skill-based subject that just kind of needs to keep chugging ahead. So maybe get your math out of the way, but pause everything else and then focus on this. But honestly, even if you do a 15-minute reading of the Jotham book, and then there is either a second read aloud. So with some of the other levels, the Jotham books has the library books, but like the Bartholomew book has a Christmas Carol, and the Tabitha book, I believe, it's been a while since I wrote these. The Tabitha book, I believe, has the Vanderbeeker book. So if you don't want to do the optional books, then don't. But if you want to do Christmas school, then you could suspend the other reading aloud that you're doing and do this instead. The crafts, they're scheduled for you. I tried to space them out so you didn't do too much back to back. But if it doesn't work for you to do it on a Tuesday when it's scheduled, then just save it for the weekend or save it for a lighter day. Maybe Friday if you're following a 4-day program, and you could do like craft day on Friday and do several crafts. You don't have to do the baking, or maybe that's something you can do when you go to grandma's house and you bring the recipes and you say, we want to bake with you, grandma, and then you don't have to clean up the mess. So as always, the instructor's guide is a guide. It is not a taskmaster. You don't have to do it according to the schedule. You can make it work for yourself, your family, and choose to do as much of it as you want. So there's my tip about that. Okay, then Emily also asked how to make an Advent wreath, because hers, is not looking great. So I ran around my house today to pull together, and I have some ideas for you. First of all, I'm going to share with you, this is my Advent wreath. It is clay, like terracotta, and I have had it since we got married, so it's quite old. I know from experience, if you can see, like the wax will drip on it, so I have learned to put it on some kind of plate or tray. This is just a charger. It's plastic, so if you drop it, it's no big deal, but it's sparkly, so it's nice. You could put your circle wreath on there. You said you have a candle holder, like the circle kind. If you don't have that, then what you could do is use votives, and just, I mean, you can get whatever kind of candle will fit in there, and just put it on some kind of tray. This is a thrifted silver tray from the thrift store, and then I just added some little ornaments, just to kind of make it pretty. Can you see that? And then I took a white pillar candle and put it in the middle. So that's an idea. Another idea, don't fall, is a little bit smaller. I just took a red plate. This is from the dollar store years ago. And again, even smaller votives. And this is actually a yogurt jar. I don't like to throw things away, so I saved it as a votive, and so you could put that. And then I just scattered little ornaments and jingle bells on the plate. I like to add greenery, but that can be a fire hazard with little kids. You know, if the candle falls and it lights the greenery on fire, you may not want to do that. So that's why I was like, oh, just some little bells will do. So just something simple. It does not need to be elaborate at all. Like I said, I like to put it on a plate or a tray of some kind in order to corral it, in order to keep it, to catch the wax. And you could put it on your coffee table. You could put it in the middle of your dining room table. If it's on a tray, you can move it around if you want to read in the living room, but you don't want to leave it there. You can keep it on your buffet sideboard or whatever. So those are my ideas for how to make a very simple Advent wreath. My Advent wreath, I'm waiting on my candles. I ordered them. Traditional Advent candles are 3 purple and a pink. And if you just search the internet for Advent candles, they come as a set. So you can order those. Or you could just do all white if you want to do all white. Another question, Melissa asked, what do you do about printing all the things? So I like to print all the things, but I will only print at home if it is mostly black and white. That is why I recommend when people ask about the extra activity sheets, just buy them from Sonlight for $14, $15, $16, whatever they are now. You get a whole packet of the worksheets if you have a second child doing science or a second child doing language arts, because I don't want to waste all that ink. But when it's something that I want to have and I want to keep, I will do a couple of things. I'll ask my husband, hey sweetie, can you print this at work? He has worked out with work a very good rate, so he can print me things at work and pay for it, but it's still less than if you went to like a FedEx Kinko store or Staples or something like that. I've also done something similar at my church. Hey, I really need to print this thing. Would it be okay? Can I give a donation? And that way it covers their ink. But they have a much nicer printer than I have, like a nice laser, you know, and it prints it really nice. So they will print things for me. If you are thinking about printing the ebook that came out this year, the Christmas Around the World, that is saturated with color. I would not do that except for like at a Staples, and I've not priced it to see what it would cost. We really, because it was a gift and it was free, we did not look into what it would cost to print. So I bet it would be beautiful, printed and bound, but I personally would not spend, you know, the amount of ink that it would take. I think it would drain the ink faster than it would print, and then it wouldn't be very, very nice. So what if you just enjoyed it on a tablet or a laptop? The good thing about that is you can zoom in, you can make it bigger if you want to see something a little bit closer. So I would limit the amount of printing, but I'm a hard copy kind of girl. I am an analog kind of girl. I love my digital stuff, but I also really love books, which is why we use Sonlight. So I would caution you with that. It really is up to you and how much you want to spend. Okay, so I think I've answered all the questions that were asked. So I hope that gives you an idea of what our Advent Unit studies are like and what is involved, what is included. I have seen the past. And we really enjoyed seeing everyone post their crafts and things like that. So thank you for joining me. And if you have any questions, you can post them in the comments of the replay, and I'll be happy to answer them. Take care.